Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't get away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, relaxing is his specialty, it's Arturo Zurita.
And clearly streaming too many movies, as we've figured out, and TV shows, which we'll be getting to as well. But
yeah, the masochistic dedication to seeing everything, completionism.
Well, someone said, someone said the phrase "cinema is dead," and we were out here trying to prove it's not. It's alive and well. You know, it never died.
Doing
just
our
looking
part.
in the wrong place.
Yeah, we also got someone who doesn't want to live on through her art. She just wants to live in her flat. It's Amanda the Jedi. Welcome back for another best of, Amanda. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, we're dedicated to talking about the best ofs. We do this twice a year, midway point, end point. So we're about halfway through 2022. So might as well take a look back and collect our thoughts on the best that movies have had to offer so far this year. It's been a big year for the return to movie theaters. I feel like this has been like the first full year we've had since the pandemic started.
I've seen Dolby. I've seen IMAX.
Yeah.
I've seen 40X.
Yeah.
I'm missing Screen
every
X,
format.
Everything, man.
Okay. Almost every format. Do you feel like your list this year, your top 10 movies of 2022 so far, is more dominated by things you've seen on the big screen? Or are there a bunch of movies that you've caught on small screens as well?
Good question.
Combination? It's combination. I think it's actually a 50-50 split.
Whoa.
For me, I think.
Let me check right here.
Close. It might be moving.
2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 50-50 split for me too. Look at that.
Wow. Interesting.
There you go. We've disproved the myth. Cinema is cinema in the cinemas or at home cinemas.
See, mine is also a 50-50 split, but I've subsequently seen two of these on the big screen, so I don't know if it's quite the same.
Where'd you see it first?
Yeah. On a small screen.
Wow, Look at that.
There you go.
The power of storytelling.
Shout out to Sundance. Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to show, you can kind of be open to these great experiences, whatever format you receive them in, but as opposed to, 2020 or 2021, like, we're definitely shifting back towards the big screen experience, which, at least for me, since that's how I fell in love with movies, there's something exciting about that.
But it's cool also having the ability to watch it at home.
Yeah.
A lot of festivals at Sundance, we were ready to go split half and half. It went full virtual, but at South by, it was really interesting to see people who were still willing to go to the movie theater if it was a movie that they wanted to see on the big screen. And even for a lot of the ones that we had digitally, we're like, nah, this is going to be a lot better to watch at home. So, and even you've said you've got some movies virtually and you still made it out to the theater to go see them. So, yeah, I think as long as the story is good, people are going to go, they're going to gravitate towards it, be it in theaters or at home.
I agree.
At this point, I just rounded the corner past 200 movies seen in the calendar year. So I'm doing pretty good work, I think, so far. How about you guys? How are your numbers? Your numbers looking good?
I'm not sure
I
what
think so.
I'm at specifically, but it's probably not that high yet.
No, you're that high, dude. You're that high, dude. Come on.
Oh, maybe.
You've been enough.
like
between Sundance and Cannes and
You know what I think did it? I think it was that MGK movie. I think that was your 199.
You're right.
And then
You're right.
it hopped right over.
It hopped right over. Yeah, you're right. I forget to log things a lot of the time.
I think Zach's the best at us at logging the stuff, so I keep forgetting.
Yeah, I've been slacking a little this year too, though. I got to get back on that and up to date. Like I've been trying to challenge myself to actually do reviews for at least like a quarter of my entries, which just means I don't submit things because then I don't find time to write.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should get back up to date with that because Letterboxd is fun to like categorize. It definitely would make this whole assembling of a top 10 and honorable mentions a lot easier if I was more up to date with my Letterboxd.
Nice little tool there.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was going through the movies that were like highest ranked that I haven't seen this year, and I feel like because we've been trying to keep really on top of stuff and Also, we have the benefit of catching things early at festivals. There's not like a lot of movies I haven't caught this year that I was hoping to catch. I wanted to catch Fabian Going to the Dogs because I know a bunch of people have reviewed that one very favorably. Vortex, the latest from Gaspar Noé. I know a lot of people I didn't watch yet. Art reminded me of The Outfit. I don't know if that was going to be like necessarily top 10 material, but like a fun movie, sure.
Yeah, I wanted to catch it too.
Yeah. And Belle as well. I know a lot of people thought that was one of the best animated films of the year so far.
Very good.
But yeah, what about you guys? Is there a movie that you regret not having had the opportunity to catch before we assemble these top 10 lists? Are there any movies that you didn't catch before we did this?
There's definitely a lot of series, but I would say a lot of those movies that you've mentioned, like Paris District 13, that had like a very limited run and then didn't come out fully.
Good
so it's
one.
a lot. It's a lot of these festival movies that you've already mentioned where I just gotta find them down. Hopefully virtually, which is the best. Yeah. That's the best part of it now, is that even if you miss a little theatrical run, eventually it will be available at home. I think Vortex is available at home as well now. So
I think it just became available, yeah.
You know? So that's beautiful. So those would be it for me. Amanda?
Belle is definitely one I want to catch because I've heard a lot of really good things about it. And, there's definitely something else. I also want to see The Outfit now that he mentioned it. But I think that's mainly it for like the really big stuff, at least stuff that's like actually out and available. Otherwise I think I'm pretty good. I've caught most things.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so in just a moment, we'll get to those top 10 lists of the year so far. But first, we want to make sure you're subscribed to Intercut, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast is available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. Also check a link to our Discord in the description. We are also Intercut Pod on Patreon, where you can support the show for as little as $1 per month. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's the thing that really makes me happiest, is getting those 5-star reviews. That's the biggest boost to my own ego. So if you wanna give me that rush of dopamine, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. All right, let's not beat around the bush any longer. Let's get right into our lists. I don't know if anybody wants to kick us off. Maybe Amanda, you can be the first to go. I know you were struggling with that number 10 slot.
Yeah, it's kind of been like a circling around of Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, Navalny, or Top Gun, but I think I'm going to go Top Gun. I was going to say Top Gun.
Okay.
I'm very weird in the sense that normally I like going for, I like stories with like romantic interests and stuff, but I feel like Top Gun's actually one of those ones that the romantic side plot pulls away from the actual movie. I don't want any of that. Just show me action shots. Show me planes doing crazy things in the sky.
Yeah.
I don't care about Tom Cruise getting a hot chick, you know? I don't care. I get that everyone's like, yeah, we know we need to put all the demographics in. I don't care. So if that was gone, right to the front.
I'm with you in terms of like the romance elements, which all feel like weirdly tame and kind of like they're almost like teenagers. Yeah. But I don't want a movie with less shots of Jennifer Connelly in it.
That's the thing. I agree.
Let's put her in the planes.
That's it. Yes. Okay. Yeah. If she was more tied, other than just running the bar, if she was more tied into like she was maybe a female flight instructor or something, that could be fun. Then you're quirky.
Right.
I didn't like the way that it played out. But
cool. But yeah, a good trio of movies actually that you mentioned there. But I think I have Top Gun Maverick over those other two as well, so I'm not going to argue with that at number 10. How about you, Art? What are you kicking your list off with at number 10?
At number 10, I have a movie that came out on HBO, so technically I guess it's up for the Emmys, but we were able to catch it at, I want to say, South by from last year, and it is a movie called The Fallout.
This is my number 10 as well.
Let's talk about it then.
Almost also my number 10. That got moved.
We should do a podcast together, guys.
It's got the recommendation all around, but I think this is one that's got some pretty solid performances from Jenna Ortega, who this year specifically I think has just blown up even more and more with her being in X and her being in Scream. I enjoy both of those movies, one more than the other, but her performance has stood out in both of those, and including this one. I think she is not a star in the making anymore. I think she's already there, and I think we're just going to continue to see her catapult, and I think she deserves all of that. And I really like the nuance that she brings in here as a student after an incident at the school who has to kind of just recover and act like things are normal. I think the way that they approach when the attack happens is done very well, and then it's really just, as the movie tells you, the fallout of everything that comes afterwards, of having to continue to live life after experiencing something so grave. But that's why it's in my top 10. Why is it in your top 10, Zach?
I mean, it's excellently I think the tone is excellently depicted, right? Because it does a really good job of not necessarily being too heavy on the tragic elements, but also not downplaying those tragic elements either. I think it respects the emotional weight that living amongst these circumstances would require, but it's also a movie about teenagers and being teenagers, right? That they do some stupid things, they have weird romantic collisions, and they say things and maybe mean different things. I really love how the movie respected them as growing people, but also as people going through just one of the most horrific things imaginable. So, there's a lot of movies that have attempted to comment on like the state of school shootings or whatever. And this is among my favorite of all of those, just because I think it's done with such emotional authenticity.
Yeah, I think emotional authenticity is like the best way to put it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I really do think that it feels really authentic to like the teenage experience. And it's like, that is the focus first and foremost, is letting them just like behave the way they normally would, as it's kind of examining this reality that like so many people have to face all the time. I think they handled it really well.
Going off what you said, though, I was going to say the director, Megan Park, actress turned director from Secret Life of the American Teenager, and that's how you get some of the cameos in there. So I think surprisingly with this, and even one from last year that I know really stood out to us, Mass, they're both done from actors who are usually in like comedy teen dramas, and have now like made some of the most serious, dramatic movies of the past 2 years. So The Fallout. Yeah. Recommendation from all of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is my number 10, Art's number 10, one of Amanda's honorable mentions as well. So I think that's the first one that we're seeing across the board, but I don't think it'll be the last one. Amanda, let's go back to your number 9.
The Northman.
Hey,
I went with the Northman.
I got that later on my list too.
Yeah, like I really liked it. It's so interesting. Like one of my friends texted me when he was watching it, being like, "This is the least Eggers movie I've ever seen. You'd never know." And I was like, "It's the fart. The fart's what gives it away." I really like it though. I thought it was like a really good retelling of like the original story that went to like inspire things like Hamlet, and just kind of like going back to that, just the obsession of trying to just like complete this mission in your mind that you don't even always know why you're doing something, and like the different ways the same situation can be interpreted by different people, and like, you know, how much your life can get focused in on one thing. I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was like I thought it looked gorgeous. I thought the performances were really good. Skarsgård just really ran the show the whole time. Why is her name blanking? Anya Taylor-Joy just crushes it in everything she's in, but like no matter how much her involvement is. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, like it's obviously got that Eggers dedication to immersion,
Yeah.
whether it's the
lore.
production aspects and the lore. And I also feel like there's a quality of this movie that feels almost like it was made by a Viking. Like the hero's path is not the traditional hero's journey as a modern audience would see it, but as a Viking warrior might see it. But then again, there is just this very like enjoyable adventure film aspect to it that does make it probably the most accessible thing Eggers has ever done.
Yes.
I'm really, really high on The Northman. I think it's excellent.
Same.
I share in a lot of people's disappointment that it didn't do better, considering that it is such this like daring chance by Focus. I think it was Focus Features,
though.
right?
Yeah, Focus.
It got made.
Yes.
That's the
I
biggest
know.
thing. I'm just glad he got the money, filmed it, and put it out there.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely.
I just thought that this would have just done better just from the cast alone. I thought that would have
Trailers
pushed things
too.
further, but but we'll see.
I
See
had
if
that
it picks
one
up on the home release.
Yeah, I had it as an honorable mention. I really enjoy that one. There's a long take in this movie. It's so good. I was just really surprised with the dialogue. I did not think I would go into a Viking movie, you know, what I thought was going to be a bros movie, and that there'd be some romance in there where the way that they speak to each other, I was like, nah, this is kind of profound. This is like, he's not just looking at someone who he loves and wants to make a family with, like, he's trying to break the lineage of, like, the trauma that's come before him. Like, damn. Also, it is the second best performance that What's-Her-Name has done at an AMC theater, in my opinion, for this past year.
Nicole Kidman, yeah.
But
I mean, speaking of speeches, she's
one
got
in there.
the speech of that movie.
Sure.
Like the one you're just like, whoa, like the whole like this shifts everything in the movie.
Yep.
Damn.
So if you haven't got The Northman, definitely add that one to your list. I think it is already available. They pushed that one really quick.
Yeah,
On Peacock.
It is.
It's on Peacock. That's right.
That's
Damn,
why it's
Yup.
that's why it's tanking.
The Northman. Definitely check it out. I think that's another one that gets. It's on your list too, right? So it's on two of our lists. And
Yeah.
High recommendation from me.
Cool.
All right, so Art, what is your number 9?
I have the first of the docs on this top 10 list, and it is another doc that I saw from South by last year, same year from the Fallout, and it is out now. Not streaming yet, but if you do, go into it as blink as you can. It's called Dear Mr. Brody. It is a documentary about this rich kid back in the 70s, I think it was, who decided, you know what, enough's enough. I'm going to give my money away to anybody who asks for it. And then he does like this experiment of almost getting tired of giving the money away. And there are twists and there are turns. But there is this aspect of it where a lot of people write letters to him. And what the documentary does is that it goes through those letters that were written to him long ago. And they try to find the people who wrote those letters. And there's some really profound moments in that as you go back to see how those people are still doing now. People who weren't just asking for money just to have it, but because they needed it. And there was like a dire situation. And did they make it out of that situation in the 70s? And how are they doing now? How are their kids doing? I really enjoyed this movie. Again, just knowing that premise, go into it, and I'm curious to see what people think about it. Dear Mr. Brody.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a really intriguing documentary. And do you remember the filmmaker's last film? I think that was they're the people who made Tower, right?
I think so, which is another really good one. So yeah, they did Tower, A Song for You, The Eyes of Me, but Tower is another documentary that one came out in 2016, and it's all done in like a rotoscope. Based off, I think it's shooting in somewhere in Texas. They're really good documentary filmmakers. So I would catch both of those movies.
Yeah, Keith Maitland is the guy who directed Dear Mr. Brody. So yeah, really interesting guy. I love in Mr. Brody, though, the way that you mentioned that it's got that main film about this guy who's like dealing with his large inheritance, but then they take all these cool tangents. You know, they'll focus on an object and then like dive into a story.
Yep.
The way that it unfolds and it, like a piece of origami or whatever. You open it up and
All
see
these
something.
letters, it's beautiful, dude.
Yeah.
I like it.
Very beautifully done. Very good documentary. Great pick at number 9. My number 9 is pretty much the polar opposite, but also about the beauty of human nature and what the human body can do. I got Jackass Forever at number 9.
Yes.
I gotta say, like, this is just like some of the most fun that I had in a movie theater all year.
It was fun.
There's a really just amazing quality to what they'll do, putting their bodies on the line for the sake of these stunts in a way that you just don't feel that visceral danger in the films that much anymore. Like, outside of Tom Cruise movies, Johnny Knoxville is our stunts guy. And it's not just that they are punishing themselves, but they're doing it with a creativity that is always surprising. Like, not just, they'll often set up a stunt where you feel like you know where the hit is coming from, and then they'll still surprise you with what the actual bit is. And it's that they go to that length to it's not just about the impact or the collision, but it's about surprising you and subverting your expectations. But it's also just like one of the sweetest movies of the year about friendship and camaraderie. And I don't think the how awful some of the things they put themselves are would feel like it's fun if you didn't see them congratulating
buddies,
each other and picking each other back up and helping each other and showing real concern when, like, Knoxville gets knocked out by a bull. I don't know, man.
He's 49. He's good until he's
49.
As they say.
We've been with these guys for a while. We've seen them aged. We've seen some gray in their hair. And I don't know. I think taking this journey with them, it culminated in their best installment yet. There's nothing quite... There's nothing quite as elaborate in any of those films like that opening city-destroying sequence. And... yeah, it's just so good. It's so good that, like, Jackass Forever 4.5 is also like a honorable mention for me.
Yeah, Netflix fought to get the rights to that one. That one's also really good. All the cutout stuff. But I agree with you. There's a lot of legacy movies this year. Like Amanda mentioned Top Gun. This is also like a legacy movie. It's something that's taken 10 years. Avatar will have taken 10 years. And they've all been fulfilling. That's the best part, is that we're so used to getting these older movies trying to cash in. And a lot of these movies have kind of reminded people what makes them so good. And for the part of Jackass, it's the jackasses they made along the way. It's their camaraderie. It's a beautiful little movie.
All right, so Jackass Forever at number 9. Let's get to Amanda's number 8.
The Batman.
Ooh. I've also got this at number 8.
Oh,
really?
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like, I was never a Pattinson naysayer here going into this. I knew he was probably going to crush it. I just really like him, like, somberly walking into a building. You can kind of see his eyes are just kind of the, like, yeah, just let me do my thing, don't be mean to me kind of vibe to him. But he's still, like, kept that really bad, like, the badass vibe underneath them. I thought it was really good. I thought it took a different look at just kind of like the idea of Batman being the idea of vengeance versus being the idea of, like, justice and just being the idea of, like, hope in a city. And kind of having to come to terms with that, because, like, for so long everybody's been really up into the whole, like, the Batman quotes, like, I am vengeance, I am the knight, I am all of this, and that's, like, really what they've been pushing super hard. So to have a more, like, not toned down, but an earlier version of the character start off that way, start off with, like, the brutality being the, like, nightmare that these people don't see, and then realizing, like, what the city actually needs, I thought was really cool. And lots of good performances across the board there.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Reeves does a really great job of planting you into this, like, world that is already in motion, right? Like, there's not a lot of introducing the tone or the relationships between the characters. Gordon and Batman already have their back and forth. Sure. I still love Jeffrey Wright calling him man.
Fantastic.
It's just one of my favorite little bits. I think it's just a movie that really finds a fun tone, right? Like, we've had a few different approaches to Batman, and, like, they're giving you this kind of noir, dark, dreary, like, effect to the city that makes it more of a detective story maybe than the traditional kind of superhero thing. So that's at least why I dug it. I have a feeling we'll be hearing about it later on in Art's list as well. But Art, I don't know if you want to go straight to your number 8.
At my number 8, the relationship that Pattinson has with Wright's Gordon is really good. It's a nice little buddy cop thing going on. But I think the best buddy movie of the year has got to be RRR. These two came in and killed it with this movie. It is out on Netflix, and obviously that is the Hindi version, so that means that it's dubbed. And if you're already going to see something dubbed, you might as well just get the original with the subtitles, the Telugu version. That was the one that I was able to scope out in theaters. I saw it in a tiny theater, yet it was louder than the IMAX and the Dolby next to us. Morbius was playing, and this just washed it out. The score in this has like these vocal harmonics that are just chanting along with you, and it's some of the most just visceral sounds that I've had in a movie. The action is staged to a degree that you're like, oh, you can do something with the money that you have. They have sets that you know are using CGI, but are willing to still have actors and groups of people that they're fighting amongst. There's actual plants and things that they could touch. Everything is so creative. It doesn't feel like in the Fast movies where they're practically superheroes. Here they're telling you, yes, these are superheroes. These are gods practically. And the adventure that they go on as they're trying to, one, find this little girl who's been taken away, and then on the other side, a much bigger mission that he's trying to do for the country. I think you get a story that is able to reflect back on like the British Empire, but from the right point of view, if that makes any sense. It's not like a British movie looking back at the British Empire. And it's just so creative in so many different ways. It's 3 hours long, and you're never freaking bored.
Not for a second.
I don't get it, bro. Alina's been listening to the soundtrack nonstop.
Hell
like,
yeah.
like I'm sure people are gonna have dance-offs with the numbers that they have in there, but just overall, there's so many different things that happen in this movie that it's just entertaining. It is one of the funnest movies of the year. RRR, put it on your radar and try to catch the original version if you can.
Yeah, man. It's one of the delights of the year. I got it on my list too, a little bit higher up.
Same.
So
beautiful.
yeah, we'll talk about
Another
it more
one.
later.
Yes,
Another one.
Yes, we're really in harmony.
3
We're,
R's.
A little bit.
We're like the guys in RRR, you know.
Oh man.
Okay, so are we at
My number
Amanda 7?
Yeah, Amanda's
My
7 because
7.
my number 8 was Batman. Okay, Amanda.
My next 3 have kind of been like rotating like this, so it's whatever. I'm going with On the Count of 3.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Which
It's an honorable mention
yeah,
for me.
I really loved that. That was Sundance last year, I think, right? Yeah, not South.
Yes.
Yeah, Sundance. Okay. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of one of those movies I would say maybe you have to watch out what kind of mental state you're in before watching it, because as you will be very obvious from the trailer and any descriptions, this is like taking place on a day that 2 friends decide that they're going to kill themselves. But then one of them's like, well, if this is going to be our last day, let's do
some.
Let's make the most. Let's do some.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do something. Like, is there something that you've always wanted to do, both good and bad? And it's just kind of the progression through the day. I'm a really big fan of Christopher Abbott, and obviously Carmichael is great as well. But I don't know, Christopher Abbott's character in this is just like really dialed in perfectly. But I also really like the subdued character of Jared Carmichael. So I don't know, I just think the dynamic between the two of them works really well. And even though it has a very rough ending in certain ways, it's also very uplifting in other ways. So I was just a really big fan of this one. I was very happy to see it finally got released and distribution.
Yeah.
So definitely something to keep on your radars and check out.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's a really excellent film. I haven't had a chance to rewatch it since Sundance, but like I really loved the way that it balanced like the depths of their despair with the heights of what's possible in that moment, right? Like there's like there's a really good balancing of like how bad it can get, but also how good it could be. And I think one of the things that also struck me is the way that the film really kind of deals with the line between like I'm depressed and I'm like beyond that. I'm at a more severe point. Like a lot of people will say they're in a negative space, but it doesn't necessarily carry the same weight as somebody who has tipped over to that point. And the film treats both characters with a lot of care and authenticity to where they're at. So really good, and also very interesting to think about in light of Rathaniel, Gerard Carmichael's HBO special.
Yeah.
No, that's just all I want to say is watch On the Count of 3, but Rathaniel, I'm going to let you finish, Zach, was one of the best comedy specials of the year, and it would be on this list if we had a comedy special list to a degree. Also directed by Bo Burnham and edited by Bo Burnham. And
nice.
I don't know. What he does in that is just fantastic. I think it'd be a good back-to-back double feature to have this year. He's just been killing it this year. Directorial debut, killed it with that SNL intro. Gerard Carmichael, he's on the list. He's in the top 10.
Yeah.
He's just him specifically.
All right, what you got at number 7?
At number 7 is a movie that came out of nowhere for me and surprised me and just shows you the power that even if you watch something at home, it's still going to get to you. Mayim Bialik's As They Made Us. I never seen too much of her stuff. I've never really watched The Big Bang Theory, but she took what is a very personal story to her and made this movie about 2 siblings who lived in a very dysfunctional family, is how I'm going to put it, and just how they grew up from that, what spread to them. And now that they're older and they haven't really been back together, will they be able to unite, or will they continue to carry the problems that, as they made them be, they're still struggling with? I thought the performances in this were really nice. There are scenes that just really get to me, moments of dialogue between the characters. I've seen it twice. I saw it back-to-back on the same day, actually. I thought it was a really nice little drama that just really, I don't know, it caught me off guard, and I just want to put it on more people's radar. Thought it was really good. As They Made Us. It also has Diana
Agron. So, okay, that alone,
talk
just mentioning
talk
it.
about it.
She's got stands. She got stands.
Ooh,
half
I'm
the
about to be
Shiva
one of
Baby
them.
viewers, half the Shiva Baby viewers, Diana Agron. They're there.
That's
for
the thing I was gonna say. Now that this a pretty good run for Diana.
Yeah.
This is 2 years in a row she's made it onto Intercut Best of list.
Oh, she's great. She's
great.
really good in this. And then also, shout out Dustin Hoffman. You have to play, like, being sick and not, like, doing anything still has to have some sort of acting chops in, if that makes any sense. Because you just, like, you feel he's getting into the state of, like, just becoming more senile. But because the movie's able to work with flashbacks, he really fleshes out that character. And also the mom, who I'm blanking on the name of the actress who played the mom.
Candice Bergen.
Oh my goodness! If you know a person like this,
I love Candice.
Oh my goodness, she plays it too well. You know, sometimes there are actors who play the role too well. She played it too well. But overall,
Right.
As They Made Us, definitely put this one on your radar. Hopefully, it gets like a streaming release because it's only on VOD right now. And I know that when movies like this are able to hit a streaming platform, is usually when people give it a chance. So, As They Made Us, put it on your radar.
Awesome. All right, Mayim Bialik's film As They Made Us, number 7 for Arturo. Getting to my number 7, we're going with more movies that we've already talked about. I got Top Gun Maverick here. I think it's just excellent.
It's good.
In terms of investing you into an action thriller like this. I compared it in the past to a heist film because it kind of does this thing where it's like, the one guy who's smart enough to pull it off brings in his team of lovable characters to execute this mission that they're going to break down and piece apart like they do in Ocean's 11, practice different parts, recreate different parts of the mission to try and enact it so that all the stakes going into the final mission. You're ready for every step of that final action sequence because they've told you this is the hard part. This is the part where they're going to start chasing us.
Those are great points.
It sets you up, but it doesn't over explain itself because it lets you just kind of focus on the sheer awesome grandeur of these extremely powerful jets. They do a great job of making you feel how intense it must be to go up in these, to see the sky just zooming past you. It's extremely effectively done. I just think it's very smartly made. So even if it's not necessarily the type of movie that I usually look for to consider on my top 10s, it's just so well done, so viscerally felt when you're in your seat that I couldn't deny that experience. I had so much fun with Top Gun Maverick, so I got it at number 7.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, pointing out that it feels like a heist movie, that really does check out. Yeah, in the best way.
It's also
I like that a
heist
lot.
movie in the sense that the man took all that money from Paramount. He told them, "I told you." So now they're indebted with this dude. You heard that?
Right now, Paramount's not upset about that gamble.
Oh, but they were upset early on, and this man was getting a submarine for the next Mission Impossible movie and was upgrading stuff for whatever's going to be the next one.
And they're like,
They're like, Tom,
You
we
have
can't
to
do
stop.
this. And after this past weekend, they're like, Tom, what do you need? But yeah, I feel like
we'll go through as many COVID shutdowns as you want, Tom. Just make more movies for us.
Every year there's like a big action movie. Last year I want to say it was Dune. We've had Mad Max prior. I feel like this and maybe even the Batman would be like the two big things that I think people are going to be praising just universally, critics and audiences, until the end of the year. So I have it a little bit higher, so we'll talk about it again.
I agree with you, and I actually think, to circle back to one of the movies we already mentioned, I wonder if the success of movies like Top Gun and The Batman is maybe crowding out a space for a movie like The Northman, which could be this like amazing action but critically lauded thing. Yeah. But we have all these other ones.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that.
Anyway, just let my man Eggers make more movies like that, please. Anyway, we are now at Amanda's number 6.
So my 6 is RRR, which Art already talked about, but like it's just such a good spectacle in every way. Like I'm usually not a fan of things that are just more in like the straight up action category, but like when they're well made and they kind of infuse a lot of other different aspects, like, you know, it's weird that Top Gun and RRR are on my list this year in terms of like things I normally gravitate to, but this is like the kind of movie that you're like, if they can do this, like other big studios have no excuse anymore.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's true. And I like a lot of those other movies too, but like if it's getting to the point that if you go see a movie in a theater and you're like, yo, the season of Stranger Things look better at home. Like,
right.
You know, so if you're not even being creative with your story or how you're delivering things, and then your effects are starting to get lazy too, like there's a reason why people are getting a little bit jaded. It's not just burnout of the topic or of superheroes or of action movies. It's burnout of complacency, I think, in a lot of ways. So this kind of movie coming in and just ripping through, connecting with audiences all over the world, when people are oftentimes really hesitant to watch things with subtitles or that are dubbed, even if they go that route. I think it's really impressive, and it deserves the world. It deserves a lot of recognition and everything it's getting.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I could not echo those points harder. That's exactly how I feel. That's why I have RRR at number 5 on my list.
There you go.
'Cause, it's just a complete joy, and to compare, it's obviously not easy to compare it to art films, but if you do want to compare it to blockbuster spectacles, like it just absolutely leaves what we've been served for the most part in the dust. I mean, Kevin Feige really needs to be taking notes, and it's not even a matter of CGI either, because there's plenty of CGI in RRR, and not all of it is like top tier, photorealistic CGI, but it's implemented in a way that I think doesn't take away from seeing these excellent performers just do fun things on screen. They've got like these extremely talented guys in the lead roles who are every bit the kind of like old-fashioned movie star that we used to have, that we when we used to make things in this country. And like, throw in the musical numbers, throw in the jumping off the bridge set pieces. Literally. It's just the most joyful type of event you can have in a movie theater.
And they give you movie all the way through the end credits. Like that thing is still playing stuff all the way down to the end. So, yeah.
I loved RRR. So yeah, Amanda's number 6, my number 5. But let's circle back to number 6 for Art's pick.
I have a duo here, a duo of docs, a little tie right here of 2 music docs that really stood out to me this past year. Genius, a Kanye Trilogy, and Look at Me, xxXTentacion. One's on Netflix, one's on Hulu. One really focuses in 3 parts of the idea of Kanye, the man who wanted to create stuff, and you really get his process for his first album and what it took to get there, with a third act that then became more of this idea of what happens when you get so big you leave your friends behind. But those first 2 acts are phenomenal, and I've loved Act 1 specifically since Sundance, and then the xxXTentacion doc, a look at trauma and what happens when that doesn't just cycle on to someone that's really young, but someone that's really young that ends up being able to get so much influence because they put that trauma on display. And by putting that trauma on display, they're just giving people what they want, and they get so big. until karma comes back around to it. I think both of these are really profound. There are quotes in both of these that are really great. There's one in XXX where he made a deal with somebody and they ask him, why did you take so much less money to be with me and not with the other people who are going to give you millions of dollars? And they're like, well, because with you I'm a partner, with them I'm a prisoner. And there's just a lot of the creative process that both of these docs talk about, and the business side of things. And I love both of these docs. That's why they both come in at my number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 for the year.
Nice. Yeah, that Kanye doc, I probably should have it on my top 10. I don't have any documentaries on my top 10. I guess I was just a little disorganized, but it's so good. Like, especially those first two
Bro,
parts.
you saw it twice at Sundance. I'm getting something in the room and I'm hearing the doc again and I'm like, who's playing this? And Zach's like, I had to play it again.
It's great.
It is.
And I think also just like a really compelling look at an extremely compelling artist. I mean, there's aspects of the documentary which I maybe wish were a little bit different, but there's just so much valuable material there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I found it fascinating. So great pick, Genius at number 6. I still got to catch up with Look at Me also. So yeah, the duo of music docs you got at number 6. For my number 6, this is where I had the Northman. We've talked about it a bit already, but amazing movie. It's great to see. There's a lot of times where you hear about how expensive a movie is and like, okay, I guess maybe it costs a lot to do the CGI or something. This is a movie where you see every single dollar on screen. It feels as expensive as you've heard, but it also feels justified because it looks incredible. The actors are incredible. Everything is just working in cohesion. Eggers is one of the top dogs out there, so I'm going to be first in line for whatever's next.
90 mil? You talking about them
I
stretching?
think it was 70 mil.
No, this feels like 100 mil. Like, that's when you know that you got a real good director when they're able to stretch it like that. Wow. Yeah.
Incredible
90,
stuff.
90 mil.
Wow.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
It's still not 100 though.
Wow.
That's the point. It's like, how did he make it look so profound? That's the bit. So, man, they should have given him more.
Absolutely. All right. So that means we're at Amanda's number 5.
This is one I've talked about multiple times for like 2 years now, but it actually finally got the wide distribution.
There we go.
Of what are these top 10 lists for?
I knew this was coming.
If not just to share the small stuff.
Yeah.
I want a different cut next year so it could also be on next year.
Dinner in America.
Yeah, let's go.
My adorable little aggressive, cute punk rock, little coming of age rom-com, quirky. We got, Emily Skeggs and Kyle Gallner. I just really like this movie. I think it's really adorable. It makes me really happy when people said they were finally able to check it out after like years of hearing me talk about it and just seeing, people, really like connecting with it. And I just think that there's still a place for these kind of like weird little, like small town, odd, not really, giving a fuck to just curate certain areas of it so that it knows within like the first 20 minutes, certain people are just immediately going to want to like tap out. But like, if you stick through and it's your kind of thing, it'll probably resonate really, really heavy with you. I really liked it. I think it's cute. So it's in the 5. Yeah.
Authentic to itself.
It's funny. I've been seeing, I think we all were in agreement that it's a movie that gets better as it goes along. And I'm seeing a bunch of people reacting like, yeah, I wasn't vibing with it at first, but then I really loved it.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it is a movie that is really finding an audience and a bunch of people who are embracing it. So it took a while, as we can tell you from our podcast.
Long press run.
But
it's a lot of, I've been working really hard.
Yeah, they sent you a shirt, right?
Yeah, I did.
That's cute.
I thought so.
That's cute.
They'll have you at the junket for Dinner in America too.
They better.
All right, so Amanda finally gets the chance to talk about a now released Dinner in America at her number 5. Let's go back to Art for his number 5.
Shiva baby, it has been a long. I'm just kidding. Marcel the Shell. This is
so
finally
jealous.
getting
Me too.
a really weird release right now, where it's in like one theater. They're sending out things like there is one showing in this one theater in the back room, and you'll be able to see Marcel the Shell. I'm like, come on, bro. This is the shorts are on YouTube. Millions of people have seen this. It's freaking stinking adorable about this stop motion shell who just goes about their daily life, and they decided to make a full-length feature film that's playing off as a mockumentary where Marcel's trying to find their family, and this is it. This is that family film. This is heartwarming. It is hilarious. It's funny. It's out of pocket at times, and it's just beautifully animated while also being live action.
Aww.
And I'm surprised that A24 had another movie that literally made so much money. It's still at the box office. It's considered their most profitable, but they're doing a stilted release with this one here. It feels a little more stilted than what they did with another one that we're going to mention from A24 on this list. But if you have the chance to catch this, do so. Watch the shorts if you haven't on YouTube. They're hilarious on their own right, and you would think that between this and there was another cartoon, I don't know if Zach mentioned it yet, where it's crazy to take an episode and make it into a feature-length film. This is a YouTube short made into a feature-length film, and it works so incredibly well. Marcel the Shell, literally the best family film, if you don't include the Batman, of the year. Marcel the Shell.
Awesome. I could not be more excited to see it. It seems really, really delightful, and your reactions only got me more excited.
Nice.
It's really good.
All right, I keep on talking too early because my number 5 is RRR. So once again, we gotta swing back around.
You're good.
To Amanda for her number 4.
My number 4 is one that has started. It got a bit of a theatrical release, but we caught it at Sundance. I'm going with After Yang.
Hey,
Awesome. I
feel like
have this
that's-
at my number 4 as well.
Okay, whoa. Man, I love movies about just kind of like the examination of like what it means to be human, like what is existence, like, and usually there's just different ways to approach it. And I really liked the way this one approached it. It's just like how Colin Farrell's character is going into the memory banks of this android, that like a family android that they had to teach their adopted daughter to make it feel like she had more of a connection to her origins in China, and him kind of like realizing how much larger an existence can be outside of what you would have assumed like the programming was for something. I just thought it was very intimate. It was like a really very intimate look, and I thought they did a really good job with like the visuals for it as well, because it's kind of like a camera thing almost. It feels like it's like a camera kind of going on in his head where he's like rewinding, fast forwarding, and different things like that. I thought it was a really unique premise, and just a really nice, beautiful, just lived in movie. And that was Haley Lu, right? That's Haley Lu Richardson's also in it. She crushes it because, brought her back from Columbus. Yeah, Columbus, not Columbo.
Not the detective show.
Not the detective show, Columbus. And you see why. Like she's really good when you give her a shot. And I feel like she's one of those ones I'm surprised hasn't broken out bigger, kind of like an Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
She does a lot of these smaller things, but she's really, really great. So she's someone I feel like is going to have a very long, good career, and you see why in movies like this.
Yeah. Dude. She's extremely wonderful in this. Colin Farrell, just one of my favorite Colin Farrell performances, because I think he carries so much of the sadness just like in his voice and his posture. And,
he's good.
You were talking about how it's kind of like stitched together and like shot, like there's these flashes to memories almost. And it's something that on the first time that I watched it through, it was these like abstractions that made the film a little more puzzling and kind of like, I think worked on me in maybe like a subconscious emotional level, but I don't know if I like intellectually got it. And on revisiting the film, you really see how he's really like learning about a life through these moments and experiencing them both through his own memories and the memories he's watching. I think there's something to that in like the way that the memories are often doubled or shot from different perspectives. You can kind of see they're using different takes, and I almost feel like that's like his memory versus the recorded memory happening. There's a very fascinating, there's so much fascinating. I think I described it when we first watched it as a film that like every little detail feels like it could be its own movie.
Yes.
Like there's just a whole movie that you could make about the adoption service that they're talking about. But that's just sort of like background context for the android.
That's awesome.
Really wonderful film. Amazing stuff. Kogonada. He's
So
gonna talk about him later on the TV podcast too. But yeah, making great stuff. So that's Amanda's number 4 is After Yang. My number 4 is After Yang. Art.
Really? Okay,
Where do you have, or what do you have at number 4?
Top Gun Maverick in 40X.
Okay.
ScreenX,
Yeah,
IMAX,
let's go.
whatever you want to call it. This is one of the best released blockbusters of the year, easily. Zach was right in calling it out and saying that this is going to be one of the biggest movies. It's at 15 right now. We're doing the countdown, trying to get it up to that top 10. All
Top
before
10.
July 4th weekend over here, but it really just is a solid action movie. You could have had a little bit more from the side cast, but nonetheless, they still bring in there to elevate what is really just going to be the Tom Cruise vehicle. I could rewatch those scenes so many times. Catching it in Dolby was fantastic, but then catching it in IMAX was incredible. And then the 40X is just really cool to be flying in with the seats with them. I think Top Gun Maverick is probably one of the most universally beloved movies of the year. And there's a theory out there, without spoiling too much, because obviously people, you see it in the trailer. But I had seen it floating around, and then someone had even sent it to me. So it's like clearly even our viewers kind of think this, that there's an idea that he may have in the first mission that it does in the movie died and the whole thing's a dream. And that's why everything's like revolving around him. So now I had to go back and rewatch it in IMAX 40X to see if I visually feel that.
Tom Cruise would never allow that to happen, but I like that theory.
Right? Thank you.
Tom Cruise
These
was like,
action
no,
heroes,
I'm the fucking hero.
they will literally be like, someone's gonna die in this mission. Psych. So
Psych.
yeah, no, this is one of those movies that I think just delivers in every aspect of it, and I think is even better than the original, which is one of the most beloved movies of all time. Yeah. And I still got my little Chronouts thing right there, and I have my Top Gun thing over here, and I got the pin somewhere in here as well. So Maverick definitely has made an impact. I've got it at my number 4, and I can't wait to go see it again this weekend.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. I need to go see it again. I've still only seen it once.
You need to go see it in 40X. I'm sure y'all have a 40X over there, dude.
I think we have a ScreenX in the city, so maybe that's what I gotta do.
Bro, I'm not playing with you, dude. Yeah. This is the only ScreenX movie that they actually got cameras for and isn't just like digital stuff. One of us needs to go see it. It has to be you, Zach.
It can't be me.
I can accept that mission. All right, so I had After Yang at number 4, so let's go back to Amanda for her number 3.
Top 3.
My number 3 is The Worst Person in the World, which is one of those weird outlier floating in between 2021, 2022 movies, but we had left it off of our best of last year specifically. So here she is. I'm a big fan of coming of age stories. I'm a really big fan of the post-adolescent variety that lets you know, like, it's cool if you don't have your shit figured out in your 20s because, like, it takes time and it's okay to change your mind and try different things and move to different places and meet different people, and sometimes you're going to make mistakes and you're going to be cruel unintentionally and you're going to have cruelty done to cruelty is a strong term, but you know what I mean, like bad things are going to happen to you and people are going to mistreat you, and it's just like this girl Julie just finding her place in the world, and I really enjoyed it. It's a good one. Really hit. Though it's odd. It's also one of those ones that has like a lot of 5-star reviews and then a bunch of people that just like hate it. And then they're just like, I have to let everyone know that I hate this movie. So it's getting a 1 stars, baby.
Yeah. I think that's also a case of people who hear the like really great reactions to it and just get angry that they don't have the same kind of experience that you did or that I did, because this is also one of my favorites of the year. I have it at number 2 on my list because I think it's just like it's just like a beautifully told film and about like a very relatable experience. I think there's just like this aspect to your 20s that you end up like you end up going through different identities, even if it's not consciously, and in the pursuit of trying to figure out where you want to be in the end. And especially in that beginning sequence, which I love, that first bit where she changes her hair a couple times and changes her major and changes her boyfriends. And
like the explanations behind it, where it's all like, oh, but it makes much more, I've always been much more interested in the mind and like, yeah, and it's so much about the ways that we convince ourselves of a certain type of life, or we try to like emulate a type of experience that we think is going to be the one that makes us happy, and then you don't end up figuring out what ultimately makes you happy in the end. I mean, there's a reason I chose Worst Person in the World for both your intro quotes and our outro quote today, because there's so many lines that I feel like are super resonant. I got to take a couple friends who are not like big moviegoers to this, the first movie they had seen in theaters since pre-pandemic. Oh, wow.
And they were all just like really rocked by it, because it's
nice.
It hits. I think if you've experienced anything like these feelings, you're really gonna feel this one. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, loved Worst Person in the World. My number 2, Amanda's number 3. But Art, we got to get to your number 3.
That would also be in my top 3.
Or do you have Worst Person in the World?
I did not put it on the list, but it would have also been my top 3. But at least I know for the Intercut Best of the Year last year, we did have it tied at number 1. So I speak the same praises y'all do. It's on Hulu. No reason for anyone to not catch it. It's fantastic. It's really
so
great.
Good, yeah.
I guess I get to be the first one to mention this. I guess it's going to be higher in y'all's, but everything, everywhere, all at once.
All at once.
We'll say it all at once you guys bring it up.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that. Okay, so my number 3 then is a little movie that we caught at Fantasia last year, but a film that I can't really get out of my head because I've been so impressed by it. It just brings me a lot of joy. It's Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, the Japanese time travel bizarro comedy about a man who discovers that his security camera can see 2 minutes into the future, which is just so clever because unlike most time travel films where you have to go to this distant beyond time, you see the immediate impacts of his time traveling abilities. Like there's immediate reward to this, and then when you start really playing with the loops and really getting into the ways that this film has been segmented and plotted out, it's just so joyful. Like watching it all sort of like come together perfectly. It's like watching like a really great Rube Goldberg machine all fall into place. I was laughing my ass off. I was surprised and delighted. It's just the kind of like small discovery that you kind of hope to make, a movie that you hadn't heard much about, that you don't have a whole lot invested in when you start, and then you watch and find it to be delightful in every turn. So Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, this is the movie that I feel like I'm recommending to people in my life, like more than any other film, because I know not a lot of people have seen it, and I find it to be so pleasurable. I
didn't realize that it actually come out.
Yeah, it's on VOD. I think it's actually streaming on Prime right now.
Prime Video.
Nice. Okay, I will shout that out. I really like that one. It was really good, really clever,
it's so good.
Really fun. Yeah. Oh, so that's my number 2 now?
Yeah, back to Amanda.
My number 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if it's higher on Jack's list.
It is.
It is, so we'll wait.
Yep.
We'll wait.
Higher than 2?
Yeah. I said my number 2 was Worst Person in the World.
Oh, you did say that.
So now we're back to... So now it's Art's number 2.
Yeah, so I've got, I got 2 slots, but I got 3 movies that I'm looking at because Amanda reminded me of another one, but I'm going to stick to it. Right before we get to our honorable mentions, at number 2, I have a movie I wasn't able to put on last year that we caught at last year's Sundance. It is out now. Pleasure. Content warnings and all. This is one of the best movies, one of the best directorial debuts, acting debuts. All of that stuff it follows a woman who enters the porn industry and realizes the ins and outs of the business. You could apply it to a lot of other aspects of any other business. This takes it in probably literally the most pornographic way that you could take it. It had like the most limited run. I think it's out on VOD. I'm not exactly sure. It is, right?
Yeah, it's on VOD now.
That's because Neon agreed not to change any of it. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. It had picked up by A24. A24 wanted to cut it up because that's what they do. And Neon's like, no, we'll keep it. And then it got a mumbled release. But Pleasure, my number 2 spot. Watch it at home. It's probably the better place to watch it, I guess.
I would agree. I don't think I'd want to watch that in a theater. As bad as that sounds, it's for multiple reasons. It's not something I'd want to be worried about reacting to other people reacting to what's happening.
Like it's a film that I would like to watch in a private theater.
Yes,
maybe.
I would love to see it.
Those old-timey theater, the booths.
Yeah. Like, okay, so if it had come out at this year's Sundance and we had our home theater set up at the Airbnb, that would have been ideal. That would have been great. You know? That would have been good.
Man, but, even then, we all just going to be sitting there watching someone's back and forth. We saw a month together in theaters, and even we were all like, I don't know, Chase.
And then Chase was still like, I got my poster. No, it was really good. That was another one that was kind of like on my list at one point and then got moved around so much because like I feel like the quality of like so many of these movies is just really like neck and neck. It's like really good.
Yeah, a lot of good ones this year. But yeah, Pleasure, my number 2, which I think leads us to our honorable mention.
My number 2. My number 2 is Worst Person in the World. So let's get to honorable mentions, the movies that did not make our cut, even though we loved them. I can go first if we want. I've got. You reminded us before we started recording that Woodland's Dark and Days Bewitched came out this year.
Good.
That is maybe my favorite documentary that came out this year because that is just an incredible look at horror, folk horror, like from every facet and turn that you can imagine. If you're a horror fan, you owe it to yourself to watch that. I liked X. I enjoyed the latest Ty West horror movie. I think there's a lot of fascinating elements at play there and says some really interesting things about the horrors of aging. I don't know. I dug that one. I got Ninja Baby, one that we enjoyed at South by Southwest. I think that one is now.
We see too many movies. Out now. It hurts us. It hurts us.
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, but that's a super charming movie about like the horrors of pregnancy. Maybe more relevant than we thought at the time. But and on that note, I guess we could talk about Happening a little bit, which just hit VOD.
Also really on my list,
an amazing film about France in the 1960s and one woman's path to try and find an abortion. It's harrowing and awful to watch, and again just relevant in the worst ways now. I got On the Count of Three, which Amanda brought up. I got Pleasure, which Art brought up. I got the Bob's Burgers movie, which Art was alluding to. Which
I want to make sure you gave it the shout out, dude.
Yeah, it's a super delight. Just I really enjoy the vibe of Bob's Burgers. I think it's a very warm, loving show, and it's got so many jokes too. It's just wall to wall, really funny stuff. So I like that. I like Turning Red. I think it's the best Pixar movie in quite some time. It's a really cool coming of age story with a lot of style and personality. But the one that was my hardest cut from the list is the latest thriller from the boy Steven Soderbergh. I got Kimmy in my number 11 slot. The Zoe Kravitz-led techno thriller that it's kind of like a weird mix of Rear Window and this other kind of thriller. I don't know but the ways in which it sort of uses these modern elements to update the kind of Rear Window blowout-esque story is really cool. I really dug that, and I think Soderbergh is just excellent at certain choices that really, really heighten the film. As soon as she goes outside, she's hitting all those Dutch angles. I love that.
Yeah.
So, Kimmy, my number 11. Amanda, what do you have in your honorable mentions?
Pretty much everything you just mentioned, absolutely no exaggeration. You touched on everything. I think the only one you wouldn't have touched on, so a couple that I had mentioned a little bit earlier on, like I said, Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy.
Great one.
From the guy who did Drive My Car. His name's
Ryosuke.
Yep, thank you. Super good. Really, really enjoyed that one. Navalny was one of my favorite docs other than the Woodlands one.
Excellent documentary.
Which is honestly, even just with everything that's happened since we saw it back in January, it's just a really interesting look into him and the comedy that they almost have to bring to these really horrible situations where they're calling people to try to get information on how they drugged him and stuff, and then hanging up and being like,
"Did you poison me?"
Well, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just little things like that. So I definitely recommend Navalny. And then Kimmy was another one that I ended up cutting that I was sad about. Fallout was one of the ones, and yeah, I think that's. Oh, and the only one that you did not mention, Fresh. The Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan that we caught at Sundance this year as well. I have a video on it, so I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was fresh. Yeah.
Nice.
People really resonated with that one. They liked that one a lot.
Yeah. We just saw that it's apparently going up for the best TV movie Emmy. So maybe it'll end up with a couple Emmy awards when it's all said and done too.
Oh, because it went right to Hulu.
Because it's Hulu
right?
now. Yes, it'd be facing the fallout and stuff. They have to split that. I told you, the miniseries and TV movie, they got to be split now. There's too many of each.
There is.
You can't be competing 8 hours against a 2-hour movie. That's not fair.
No, it's not fair.
Yeah. All right, what about you? What do you have on your honorable mentions?
Everything y'all said, and some that you had mentioned earlier with The Outfit and Belle. I think those are two movies that should definitely be on people's radar. I know The Outfit is on Peacock as well. Mad God, which is going to come up in another video, but I have to mention it here as well. That is definitely one where definitely get a big screen, but the sound design is what you really need. The 4 that did not make my cut, 2 of them would be movies that were up for Oscars last year, but didn't really get the releases until this year, and they're really great. They would be in my top 10. Compartment Number 6 is a movie about 2 individuals who just find themselves on a train, and just the adventure that they go on. I think the acting is fantastic, and it's a beautiful story. Great Freedom is a German drama film, and the performance in this movie, this dude has been in Transit. He has been in a couple of other movies. His name is Franz. I think gives one of the best performances of the year, but I think they counted it for last year, so there's no campaigning him here. It is a fantastic movie. I want to say, I don't know what the era is, but it's definitely like well over 60 years ago, where they were like installing cameras to capture gay people who were meeting up in bathrooms, and they put them in prison. And it has one of the greatest posters. There's one. It's the poster on Letterboxd. It embodies the movie completely. It is a fantastic movie. Yeah. Compartment Number 6, Great Freedom. And then my last 2 would be Strawberry Mansions, which they sent it to me. I talked about it so much. They sent me a Blu-ray of it, and it is a beautiful Blu-ray with like this artwork covers, and there's some special features. I want to get into it more. This is a little movie from Sundance, South by?
Yeah, no, TIFF.
Yeah, Sundance, both.
Wasn't it TIFF?
I think it's
like
premiered. I think it's showed everywhere, but it's specifically been shown on Intercut so many times because I always talk about this movie, and this is like rounding it up right here. I think it's like a really quirky film about a dude who does like tax evasions, but the taxes are in your dreams that he has to go collect. So then he meets an old lady who, the younger version in her dreams, he falls in love with. There's rat sailors. I don't know, dude, but Strawberry Mansions is out there. It's a really crazy movie, but not as crazy as my last honorable mention here. I like Alex Garland, guys. I'm sorry. Men. I thought Men was a very interesting Rorschach of a movie. It's shot beautifully, and it's got Jessie Buckley, who I think is top 3 actresses working today. So Men
great.
Rounding up right at the end. Even if it's not my favorite of Alex Garland's, I think he always makes something that leaves something lingering in your mind.
Yeah, for sure. A striking, memorable filmmaker, and a lot of memorable picks on your list. Definitely some movies that I probably should have mentioned on my I wish I caught up with. Great Freedom, like you mentioned. That poster is just
poster is insane.
You see that and you want to watch the movie instantly. All right, so after the honorable mentions, that brings us to the number 1 film of 2022 so far. Amanda,
good morning.
What is the number 1 film for you?
Oh yeah, it is Good Morning. No, I'm joking. It's Cha-Cha Real Smooth. I resonated with that movie like nobody's business. It's another coming of age. I'm a big fan of Cooper Raiff now. He's like just somebody I'm going to be following forever. Like we talked about it a lot at Sundance, where the way he makes movies almost seems like it could be cringy, but he's just so sincere and authentic that it doesn't come across that way. And he's just so good at tapping into certain genuine emotions of people going through big transitional periods in life. So Shithouse was transitioning into college. This is transitioning out of college. And what do you do now when you've always kind of been the one who just follows what's around you, whatever. It's not just a matter of like, oh, I'm just going to find whatever opportunity pops up. It's just like, I'm going to follow someone else doing something. I'm going to try to like insert myself into someone else's thing. The whole idea of like being the party starter for other people, but eventually having to be the party starter for yourself. There's just this conversation back and forth between he and Dakota Johnson's character about like what it even means to be happy. It hit me so hard at a period where I was kind of feeling a little bit jaded because like, I hate like Scream was a huge bummer for me. The Spider-Man movie, I was like, I think everyone's insane. Am I the problem now? But no, it's Hollywood. So I was
you lost your love for movies, and this reminded you why you do it, why you watch these things.
Like there's still like old things I still love. Like it didn't retroactively make me dislike things I already loved, but I was having a hard time connecting with new things because I just couldn't find anything that was hitting. And then this hit. And it broke down those walls and let me know I was okay and that everyone else is the problem. I'm joking. No, I really like it. Yeah. So that's on Apple TV Plus.
So yeah, Cha Cha Real Smooth, our first Apple TV Plus pick of the day, available now on Apple TV Plus kind of recently. So a bunch of people are catching up with it. And I feel like a lot of people are really, really resonating with this film. It definitely feels like, along with another one that we're going to talk about as my number one, maybe this is like one of the more like loved movies of the year, even if it isn't necessarily the most liked. Because Art, you were saying you've been reading a bunch of the detractors on Cha Cha Real Smooth.
They're out for Cooper Raiff, bro. They want to come at him. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people who have resonated with it, and I think we like it too. I think we even prefer it more than his first movie, which he also got a lot of buzz on. But I think it's the idea of you have like a...
I still kind of like Shithouse.
More?
I think so, but marginally.
Okay, that's fair.
I think he's just... he's 25. He's had 2 movies. He's got the Sundance Award. He's got the South by Award. I think it's easy to hate him at this point.
He's got the X amount of mils from Apple.
So I think there comes a point where that idea of what you were saying, where he balances that cringe, like just about right, where it very much seems authentic to some people. Maybe it's too authentic. I don't know at what point it's like it's just easy to hate the guy. And it's not that, you don't have to like the movies at all. I think it's very valid to, not see yourself in the movies and such. But I've seen a lot of reviews where, Zach's about to mention for what his number one is, where something becomes so beloved that people want to dislike it. Zach had also mentioned Worst Person in the World. And maybe it's so beloved people want to dislike it. Or maybe you see yourself too much in that character that it's like, oh, I don't know too much about that. But I think with streaming, I think you have the ability to rewatch things later, because as we compare these two, one of the reasons I like Cha Cha more is because you're just at that point in life. Whereas if I was going through college and had left home, Shithouse would probably be there. Yeah. So I think that's just one of the fascinating things with how people receive movies, especially now where everybody gets a say in the movies, which I think is the way that it should be. But what comes with that is a lot of people having varying opinions that clash. And you don't really get to sit with a movie as much. But I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Art, there's always going to be some sort of reaction to something that gets a lot of love. Like if you see a bunch of people respond so positively to something and you don't feel that same emotion, like you're not going to be like, oh, what's wrong with me? You're going to be like, what's wrong with this?
They're reviewing the response, not the movie.
Right. Yeah, as far as... Go ahead, Emmett, if you had anything.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, like, I've had that where I'm just kind of like, I don't understand what people... But I try to see that.
And we do it all the time, too,
Yeah, and I'll say
it's a they thing, Amanda.
It's only sometimes. I have to look at the popular consensus, and then I know whose fault it is. No.
Yeah. With Cooper specifically, I feel like what he does well is not as definable as maybe some other people. Like, I think that if he were a better visual stylist, or if he were this guy who wrote snappy Sorkinian dialogue, people would be like, oh yeah, obviously this is the next great filmmaker. But he's just a guy who seems very in touch with his emotions and with his character's emotions, and by wearing his emotions on his sleeve in not just his acting but his writing, he's really resonated. So I'm glad that people are finding a movie this nice and enjoying it. It says something about the culture that we're seeking out something nice like this.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why I like it so much, because like a lot of the times when I engage with media, it is more to do with emotion. Like sometimes it is just cool, the spectacles, the blah blah blah, but like I do, like a lot of the times it's going to be the emotions of something that's going to push me harder than any other aspect. So I think that's specifically why I resonated with this so much too. But if that's just not really what you engage with in media, it might not hit for you. And if this experience isn't what you've been through or your reality, it might just seem like cheesy Nerf problems, So I can get it. Yeah.
Well, he's like Ted Lasso, but no character. He is the character, like Zach said. He's selling himself. He's not pretending to be the nice guy. He's like, I am Cooper Raiff, directing Cooper Raiff, written by Cooper Raiff. So it's like there's a direct lineage right to him that I think is why some people contrast with him.
Yeah. Well, he tried not to be in this one. Dakota wouldn't let him.
Hey, Zach said that in his next one he's not going to be in it, but I'll believe it when I see it. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Art, what do you have at your number one?
I know you don't like when I do this, Zach, but it ends up being another tie again because I was reminded of another movie that was out. And it's interesting because both of these movies came out at the same time, one in theaters, one on Showtime, of all things, which is, I think, why it got lost. But it was my favorite out of Sundance, and this is one of my favorites of the year, The Batman and After Yang. And there's a connection here, Zach. It's Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell's at my number one. So that's what it is.
Okay.
They took out the last phone booth in New York this year, so he's still grieving. But the man can enjoy the fact that The Batman and After Yang are, I believe, movies that have appeared in all of our lists, or at least gotten a recommendation, and I think both of them are standouts. The Batman is a movie where it is so brooding.
Yes.
Yet it's funny. It's a comedy. There are so many jokes in there that catch you off guard. And as you guys were saying, and Amanda was breaking down, we're so used to the idea of the Batman, and this kind of broke down the philosophy of the Batman. Like, what really happens when you become this idea of vengeance? I think that the Riddler is probably the one thing that has grown on me more and more and more. I think Paul Dano's performance of him is incredible, and I think that thematically it's one of the best stories that has been written against Batman. I think it's shot beautifully. It has some of the best cinematography from Greg Fraser. I mean, the man can do no wrong, man. I don't know where Lubeski's been, but Greg's been showing up, is what I'm going to say, since Dune and this and what he has coming up next. And then for After Yang, Kogonada is in my top 5. I loved Columbus. That was a top 10 movie for me, right out of Sundance. And this was another one right out of Sundance where I was so highly anticipating it. I don't think anybody makes better compositions. Zach was talking about you could take one scene and it could be a whole movie. You could take one frame, and he says so much in it. This is a dude who did video essays, right?
Yeah.
This is that jump that people want to make from making stuff about movies and then putting it into a movie.
Yeah.
You can see his movies on mute. You can see scenes on mute, and he's telling you everything with how he stages the actors and what he puts within his frames. Both of these movies are fantastic. The Batman and After Yang. I will decide on one by the end of the year, Zach. But for right now, both of these. Colin Farrell. He has my heart.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having a tie at number one is a little bit tricky, but if we're doing a midway point, I guess I'll accept it.
Yeah, we'll allow it.
After Yang, though, is unarguably the winner for best credit sequence of the year.
Yes.
Easily. RRR wanted to knock at its door, but it's still After Yang.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely After Yang. Art, Batman is probably also your winner for movie you've seen most in theaters this year, am I wrong?
I think I stopped watching Dune by the beginning of the year, so yes, I think you are right. I think you are right.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
I caught it in
Alright,
IMAX, I caught it in a regular screen, I caught it in Dolby. You know, I like to see all the different formats that come out with it. So yeah, Batman will still be my number one.
Holds up at home too?
Forget about it.
My man, yes it does. Yes it does hold up. Bro, this
Steelbook.
This stuff
That looks
crazy, dude.
gonna
Yeah,
have to
no,
grab
100%. It is fantastic. It is beautiful.
All right.
Yes.
My man's not messing around.
No.
Loved that movie. All right. Cool. So, The Batman, Art's number one, along with After Yang, got the split at number one for our mid-year lists. My number one, we've been talking about it, but not really talking about it, so let's actually talk about it. It's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yeah.
The latest from the directing duo Daniels and A24. Art and I have talked previously about their last film, Swiss Army Man, which is absolutely delightful, surprising, unexpected mixture of different elements. They are growing from there and finding new ways to expand their unique approach to filmmaking. And Everything Everywhere All at Once really does feel like a culmination of all these different things they've been working on. Yeah. Whether it's the like slapstick physical comedy that they do so much of in Swiss Army Man, whether it's the like subversive, unexpected emotions that they layer into their stuff frequently. It's been such a pleasure to watch them grow from these audacious music video filmmakers into feature film artists who have such a handle over all the different things that go into a film production. I think the reason ultimately, beyond just crying several times at the movie theater and resonating with what this film has to say about life, the reason ultimately that I have this at number one is that every department is working at ace levels here. You have amazing visual effects, amazing production design. The action choreography is top notch. The score, Sunlux. I've been waiting for years. They scored The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby like a decade ago, and I've been like, I love this band and I want them to do more scores. This is an incredible score. And then of course the performances, whether it's Michelle Yeoh or J.K. Kwan or like I don't know, man. Everybody is so good in this. It's an incredible experience. I've loved this movie. I had sky high expectations and it still surpassed them.
Same.
So I got to put it at number one.
Yeah, I feel like this is another movie that's kind of like RRR that shows how much Hollywood's been slacking, because like the creative team, it was like 5 practical effects people, 7 special effects, or reverse those numbers. It's one or the other. Very small team made this movie. And like so many cool little tricks for like, you know, one of the dandies was like, yeah, I just walked around with like a camera strapped to my chest walking through cities in different spots, and then use that on green screens next to and behind Michelle Yeoh as we pulled her on a chair to just show her like zooming through all these different realities. Just like things that would be so easy in other places that are like, oh, we'll just digitally recreate all of it. But this is just that perfect blend of like practical putting it in with like the special. And it's also another one that resonates really heavily emotionally. Just like this whole idea of, there's like so many different layers on it. There's just kind of like the generational trauma and just the inability to kind of like connect with your children in certain ways, like the immigrant experience, that pull from both sides of like the tradition to like the modern. Because you're like really framed around Michelle's character, but then you're dealing with her daughter, and then you have fucking Waylon coming in with the roundhouse kicks from the side. He just loves so much, and he's just so positive and happy. So then that takes a little second of just kind of like, people just need to be nicer to each other, and it doesn't end up being a mess, even though there's so many different layers of human emotion and empathy kind of building into this one movie. That it all just still manages to come together, because ultimately it is really just about the human experience and like what it means to be alive. So it works. Yeah. So good.
Amazing movie.
Also the soundtrack. You had mentioned the score, but being able to have Andre 3000, being able to have Mitski, being able to bring in Randy Newman for a bit. No, it's just like anything you can want in a movie. I think. It's a really big list. They had like an orchestra of flutes or something as well. But it really lives up to its title. Because you have every ratio possible for film in here. You have all the different styles. Like, this really is a nerdy film movie. And I think you guys described it best. I just really resonated with that idea of, like, if nothing matters, then everything can matter. And it's like... It's
usually
like
people think the opposite.
But I don't know. We could go on for like another hour if we really start talking about it. But I know Zach really loved the Hulu movie from last year where... the Palms one.
Oh, Palm Springs.
Palm Springs.
Same kind of idea.
This idea of having the most positive, nihilistic movie possible. The most optimistic, nihilistic movie possible. And everything, everywhere, all at once definitely lives up to that.
Yeah. There is something to be said about that ability, that art that really like challenges you to go to the most absurd places possible and the darkest, most emotional places possible. It like opens you up and allows you to like, I feel like it readies you for that kind of experience. If you're going to accept that we live in a world where you can suddenly have hot dog fingers or be a rock with googly eyes, that you also are willing to accept like the deep emotional storyline and the ideas of these, you know, the cynicism and potential, you know, outlooks of happiness. You can actually open yourself up to experience that kind of story. So I think it works really smartly, even if it seems really stupid and silly a lot of times.
Yeah.
I just think there's so much clever going on here, and obviously I'm not the only one. It feels like this is kind of like the Letterboxd movie of the year, or the Film Twitter movie of the year, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm glad a lot of people are finding it. Yeah. And we also talked earlier about how The Northman is a movie where you feel like you see every dollar on the screen. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a movie where that looks way more expensive than its budget.
But it really is.
Honestly, putting it up against what Marvel's trying to do with their multiverse stuff blows it out of the water too on every level. Marvel's doing the thing where I watch it and I'm like, I don't feel good anymore. I feel bad. I feel upset. I don't like thinking about this. Whereas like this is the same thing, all these different universes, but it makes you care more about what's actually happening rather than making me think, well, then literally nothing matters here anymore. You've established a timeline that nothing fucking matters in. So I like that.
Well, the directors of here, they actually wanted the cameos that they had. It wasn't forced upon them by a dude in a cap. So they did enjoy it. 25 mil
what a weird
budget.
Coincidence.
Yeah, no, it's dirt cheap. That's what I mean.
25?
That's what I mean, man. Tiny budget, tiny team.
No way.
Going all out. I'm sure some people probably worked harder than they were compensated for, but like hopefully there's some kind of residual deals there for them. But I know the Daniels were also like very heavily involved in like all the different pieces too.
Everything,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, so very good.
And what just a strange coincidence that we ended up getting both these multiverse movies like within a month, or was it even like a couple weeks of each other?
A week or two. It was real close.
It did not do Doctor Strange any favors there.
Or
but
Loki.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, extremely special movie. I think that's the movie we also heard the most from the Intercuties on. So hopefully it's a bunch of your number ones as well. It A24 having a pretty successful year between Everything Everywhere All at Once, After Yang, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It led the way with 7 spots between our 3 lists.
Oh, wow.
Wow. We haven't even gotten to the shows yet. They had some decent shows this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Some pretty big shows.
And then we got HBO Warner between The Fallout and The Batman had a couple slots, and Paramount doing well with Top Gun and Jackass. So a pretty good year for those companies. But yeah, I think the thing that really did strike me about our lists is how many movies we agreed on. I think this has got to be the record in terms of number of movies that appeared on all 3 of our lists.
I think so, actually.
Yeah.
And we see
Everything
a
Everywhere
lot of
All
movies,
at Once,
like,
After Yang, RRR.
That's the reason why we also, it's not like we've seen the same movies, it's we see so many that our tastes end up gravitating towards different things, and that's where you'll see some of the deviations that we have. But the idea of like we've seen so many and we actually still gravitated towards the same one just shows you how profound these movies are. So I'm very curious to see what we may have left out of our list that y'all think we should have before the end of the year. Definitely let us know that down below. Docs, dramas, the super small ones. We're going to have a video also talking about some obscure things that weren't even in our honorable mentions, so definitely let us know down below.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's about it for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd @ZShevich. And you can check out my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, occasionally Twitch, Instagram, Letterboxd, and pretty much any other social media at Amanda the Jedi.
Awesome. Art, what about you?
You can find me in a 40X chair, tweeting at LME Explain, maybe uploading a video from there, or just, every week here on the Intercut Podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can watch our bright smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the Intercut Weekend Must Watch streaming every Monday at 3 p.m. And please leave us a comment, like the videos, and consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to our listeners in Ecuador and the Philippines for putting us on the TV and film podcast charts out there. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Support our Patreon. You can find all of them at Intercut Pods to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from Amanda, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut, and find more by clicking on the link to our Discord in this episode's description. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, I wasted so much time worrying about what could go wrong, but what did go wrong was never the things I worried about.
Amen.